know people always have weird technical difficulties when they have me on.
Oh, no. It's a YouTube thing.
Oh,
Okay, just a second. Let me note. Go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Do You Believe? Live on livesci-fi.tv, your paranormal ghost network. Thanks, everybody, for joining me tonight. Now, what I want to tell, let's see. So tonight, what I'm going to do after my interview with Linda Godfrey, who was our guest tonight, she will be talking about American monsters. Our show for next Thursday, I just want, for those who are just joining us live, we have a show live every Thursday. And next Thursday, we have our topic, we have two shows. The first show will be White-Eyed Children. It's a new phenomena, and they are supposed to be demonic. The second show we have for you is a true paranormal haunting story. Corey Johnson has written the book on this, and it's about an Akiri demon, and it's full of possessions, hauntings, and Native Americans. So that's our show for next week. And for our show on Thursday the 24th, we have Heidi Hollis, and she's written a book on shadow people and the Hat Man. Now, I've gotten a lot of requests for that show, and we are bringing that to you live on the 24th. And also, after tonight with Linda, I'll be calling Tim Wood, who will be doing a live investigation starting on the 24th all through Halloween at a haunted secret location. He is there tonight. He just arrived tonight. Now, where he's at this haunted house, the Warrens have actually investigated the house. They were brought in. There is talk of paranormal, demonic activity. They've practiced voodoo in this house. There's been murders and also suicides. So that's where Tim's at. And we will be talking with Tim right after the show tonight. So stay with me. I'll be calling Tim. Now, like I said, tonight our show is on American Monsters, and my guest is Linda Godfrey. Now, Linda is an author, an artist, and an investigator of strange creatures. She's canvassed Wisconsin, Michigan, looking for strange and offbeat, from the outsider artist, giant roadside statues to local cemetery lore, eccentric people and history to ghost stories, unidentified creatures, and UFOs. She's written 14 books and co-authored 2. And she'll also talk about her latest book, God Johnson, The Unforgiven Diary. And for more information on Linda, you can go to her website. It's Linda Godfrey, that's GODFREY.com. So Linda, I want to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
hi, Noreen. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, I could have had Linda on for like 10 hours tonight. She has so much information, but we can only do so much tonight. But I'm hoping Linda will return to a future show, for she has so many topics that I would love to bring to the viewers. Linda, so I had cut it down to about 5 creatures that she's investigated. And I know that Dogman has been one that's been circulating also on Facebook. Everybody's interested in Dogman. So Linda, why don't we start the show off with Dogman?
Well, Dogman is just one of the many names applied to the same creature that people have been reporting to me for the past 21 years, ever since I first broke the news story called The Beast of Bray Road, about a creature, upright wolf-like creature seen outside of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. And shortly after that story went national, back in early 1992, I received a call from a Traverse City DJ named Steve Cook, who said, hey, we have the same exact thing here in Michigan, only here we call him the Dogman. And the same thing had happened. He actually had written kind of a tongue-in-cheek ballad about the Dogman. Half of it was made up, but he was using it as an April Fool's joke. He played it on his radio station, and to his surprise, people began calling in and saying, man, this is no joke. I saw it, or my grandpa saw it, or this happened, or people had heard of it. And so he'd been sort of keeping track of it, and that was in 1987. But for some reason, it just never sort of coalesced the way that it did in Wisconsin. And that told me right off the bat, back 20-some years ago, that it was not an isolated phenomenon. That Bray Road, Wisconsin was not the only place where these upright dog-like creatures were ever seen, but there was also the Dogman in Michigan, the Lugaroo or the Rougarou down south, many other names in other parts of the country. People were seeing this, and it was part of so many areas' local legends, and they just had no idea that it was ongoing in other places around the country.
So, Linda, then on Bray Road, this same type of creature, the Dogman, has been seen on Bray Road.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and you're showing right now one of my sketches of this creature. It's kind of a full frontal look that this thing gives witnesses very often. And the thing that ties together this creature, Dogman, and so many other ones is its behavior. And one of the most uncanny things about the behavior, besides the fact that they stand and run and walk upright very easily, is they have this uncanny stare that they fix upon the eyewitness. And people will say things to me like, it was leering or sneering or jeering at me. They feel that it looks and acts like it's superior. And yeah, it's just kind of a crazy thing, and that's why I had drawn that last sketch to kind of get across that.
This one? Okay, this one here, there's supposed to be the monster on Bray Road.
That actually, I think is an eyewitness drawing made by a witness in California. But again, it doesn't matter all that much because they're so similar. Almost everyone describes something between 5 and 7 feet tall, walking on its hind legs, except not flat-footed like a human, a bear, or even Bigfoot, but on its toe pads like a canine.
So, Linda,
canine arms, pardon?
Do they start out like maybe possibly walking on all fours and then they stand up on their hind legs? Or are they actually seen right off the bat standing on their hind legs?
Both. I get all kinds of that right there. You're showing my very first sketch that was a witness described it kneeling, which it wasn't really kneeling exactly the way we think of kneeling, but
I could see that.
Some witnesses will see it on all fours, and then it rises up and runs easily on two, or they'll see it walking or running along on 2 feet, and then it realizes it's being observed and drops down to all fours. Or sometimes it's been seen just going back and forth between the two. So it has the ability to get around and just be observed as a normal canine when it's on all fours.
Okay, and then there's also a footprint. Now, was this taken at Bray Road?
I would have to say, though, I don't think I have any footprints on Bray Road, but there are several footprints, and generally they come in two forms. There's always a part that looks like a 6-inch wide and 6-inch long, huge wolf print with claws and everything. And then if it's a case where the creature was about to spring or jump, sometimes what would be analogous to the human heel will kind of come down and touch the mud too, which makes it look like an even longer sort of footprint. So the footprints are very consistent and are probably the best. The one that you're showing right there, now I see it. I'm a little bit behind. That was taken in Rock County, Wisconsin. And you can see the size of it next to the human hand. It was a little wider than 6 feet. There were claw prints, and there was a whole track line of these going through a cornfield, and it was obvious that it was chasing a deer. And then we found the place where it scuffled with the deer, the deer won. Evidently, it went off in one direction, and the creature went back off to some brush, and you could just follow the whole track line. I have lots of other pictures in this series. They're not the best because it was the top layer of soil was crusted and dry, as you can see.
So this all started when you posted an article in the newspaper in Wisconsin in 1991. And then you thought it was a throwaway article, and then it inspired people to start contacting you about these sightings?
Yeah, it just went crazy. This was New Year's Eve weekend at the very end of 1991, so it went into 1992. And I was actually thinking that at least it had to be a dangerous animal that people should know about. I didn't know what it was, but I did know that it was very unusual that so many people would call the animal control officer and report their names and their phone numbers. People who are trying to hoax or play a joke don't usually call the authorities on themselves. And also just the fact that he had a file folder marked werewolf in his office. And when it went to print, pretty soon all the local TV stations followed the same route I did, got the witnesses' names. They went public. Once they went public, we had Inside Edition out there, the old Sci-Fi in Search Of, and it went national within several weeks, much to my huge shock. And it has never stopped. 21 years later, I'm still getting calls from media, and I'm still getting reports from people around the whole country.
Now, these sightings actually started as far back as 1936?
Yeah, well, I have one of the earliest sightings in this area are from there, and I don't really have too many that I'm sure of that are contemporary sightings that go much back farther than the late 20s. However, there are newspaper records from the early 1800s and older legends from Native Americans that indicate that these creatures have been around much, much longer than that. But my personal reports don't go back any earlier than the early 1930s, most of them. And the one that was seen in 1936 was seen by a very devout Catholic night watchman at St. Coletta Institute, which was a Catholic institute for developmentally challenged people. And he encountered the creature digging in a burial mound on 2 succeeding nights. And it stood up, faced him off on 2 legs, and ran off on 2 legs after uttering a growl that sounded to him like the word Gadara, which is the biblical location where in the Bible Jesus cast demons out of 1 or 2 men, and they went into a herd of swine. So that's kind of interesting.
You mean the creature actually said some words?
The creature said what could have been. Now, if you take the vowels and the consonants that it put together, G, G, Da, Ra, those are also the same sounds that you would hear from a growling creature. The man who heard it thought that he was hearing
Oh my God.
an actual word, but you could take it either way. You know, I can't guarantee one way or the other. But it was just interesting that the word he thought he heard happened to be this region, you know, in the Holy Land.
So Linda, now the thing is, these creatures have been seen around starting in 1936 and possibly earlier. Why haven't there any bodies been found?
Well, the thing is, unlike Bigfoot, where if you find a 9-foot tall, 800-pound body of some sort of primate, you know you've got something really unusual. These creatures are totally canine in their physical appearance, and I say that based on something like 96% of the many, many hundreds of sightings that have been reported to me over the past 21 years from the United States and around the world. They don't have human faces. If you found a dead one, you wouldn't say, oh, there's a werewolf. You'd say, whoa, that's a really big dead either dog or dog hybrid or wolf dog, whatever you might think it was, because they do have slightly different fur and appearances. So you wouldn't necessarily think that it was something that was able to walk upright.
But I mean, there's been so many sightings. I still don't understand why they can't find a body. The same thing with Bigfoot.
Well, I think that they have probably found bodies in this case. You see what I'm saying? And just didn't know what it was. Because it just looks like a really large dead canine.
Oh,
and I've had
gotcha.
people report to me that they've seen what they thought was a body of one here and there. You know, there's more than one. Again, the Bigfoot is more problematic because you would know for sure what you had if it was a Bigfoot. But for this, if people have found bodies, and if it looks like a big, large, dead wolf,
Yeah.
most of the country, it's illegal to have a dead wolf or to shoot one or kill one. And I can't imagine that people would really want to go and report. I've had people see it and then go back and it was gone, too. I've had that occur. And I've also had people report pumping bullets into one when they thought it was going to attack them or it was going after their dog or something like that. And it seems to be able to walk away from the bullets. So I have no way to really explain that.
Well, Linda, okay, so do you think that these creatures are human or supernatural?
I don't believe that they're human. I don't believe there's no evidence whatsoever that they are the typical Hollywood or medieval-style werewolf where you have humans physically changing all of their DNA and corpuscles and cells from one type of mammal into another type of mammal, within a few minutes under a full moon. I do not believe that. And like I said, 96% of the reports I get don't indicate anything that's physically impossible or even seems supernatural. There's a small percentage that once in a while somebody will report seeing one more for something like that, or there's a different type that I call the bedroom invaders that appears in people's homes every once in a while, and they have a different physical appearance. They have more of a humanoid body usually. They're usually jet black. They're even larger than the other ones, and they just appear and vanish. And I believe that's a completely different phenomenon. I don't think it's at all the same thing that people see along the roadways or running through the cornfields or encountering on forest trails.
Do you think they have an intelligence?
That's one thing that my witnesses do pretty much uniformly say. They'll say something like, I felt it was looking at me and that it knew about me as much as I knew about it, that it was more intelligent than a normal animal. Sometimes they'll feel that they're getting some kind of impression from it. I don't know whether it's body language or some sort of telepathy. It's never, like in the King's English or anything like that, but they'll say something like, I felt it was trying to convey to me that it could get me if it wanted to, or it was angry that I saw it, or, I shouldn't tell anyone or it would come and find me, that kind of thing. And that stopped me, as an investigator, because lots of people encounter bears in the wild. My dad's from northern Wisconsin. I've been out in the wild and had a bear between me and the house. And no time did I ever feel that the bear was saying, I'm superior, I can get you. You just don't hear, it's not something you hear from encounters with normal animals. So most people do say they feel that this thing has more intelligence than your natural animal that's usually out there.
One of the viewers are asking, how do you know this?
How do I know?
What you just said.
How do I know that
they have an intelligence?
They have intelligence?
Yeah.
I'm strictly going by what the witnesses report to me. It's not anything that I have thought of myself. I'm just repeating what they tell me, which is the witnesses feel when they're confronted with it that they're dealing with something that is more intelligent than a normal animal.
So, have you ever seen this creature, Linda?
I was on a stakeout in Michigan, and it's a long story. I'll try and give you the short version.
Okay.
I started out one of my books with it. The Michigan Dogman book begins with this. But I was on a deserted road in Michigan with several witnesses where two of these creatures had been seen several times by different witnesses, and I was with the History Channel cameraman who had his camera turned the wrong way. And at one point, something just outside the spotlight we had set up ran across the road. I saw gray fur that was on the spine of something, and it was an upright spine, and whatever it was 7 feet tall because it blotted out a reflective road marker that was right there as it ran across the road. But since I didn't see the rest of the creature, I can't say for sure that's what I saw. I saw something that was upright, had gray fur. Whether it was the Dogman, a Bigfoot, a person in a gray suit, I honestly, all of that would be highly unlikely considering where we were and the conditions at the time. That's the closest I've come to seeing one.
Now, Linda, people are always carrying their cell phones, and you would think that there would be pictures of these creatures. I mean, it's so easy to pull out your cell phone and take a picture. How come?
Well, it's hard to imagine this, but back when this started, 21 years ago, very few people were carrying cell phones, and then it took really another decade or so before most cell phones had cameras in them. It's really only been the latter part of the last 10 years where everybody suddenly has a cell phone with a camera on it. And so we're only talking about, that's a valid question within the last 5 years or so. And the answer is that people have claimed to have taken photos, but I've never seen one that wasn't too blurry or too dark or too grainy or whatever to be any sort of proof. And it may well be that they were looking at it and were seeing it with their eyes, but the camera just wasn't able to capture it well enough.
Gotcha.
The other thing about this is that most of the sightings take place at night.
Oh, okay.
Not all, but a lot of them do. They are random, highly unexpected in most cases. And I went to an area where we had like 4 sightings within several weeks with a friend who borrowed a night vision camera from a police department, and she sat with that thing on and in the window the whole time, and we never saw the Dogman, but we did see a fox and other creatures fairly close to the car. A deer. She wasn't able to get a single one of them on that camera because by the time you aim it, snap it, the creature's moving, it's out of the way, and you can't. So it's a highly difficult thing to shoot, and usually the conditions aren't good. It's unexpected. I do have hopes with the new Google glasses and other inventions where all you have to do is tap this little side of your glasses frames and the camera takes a photo. There are also people experimenting with backpacks that have cameras facing backwards. Trail cams are improving and getting ever better and better. That's something that I use quite often. I have a trail cam that I have in different places. So I do have hope that will happen, but I have not yet seen one that is proof yet.
Well, I know I wanted to go into skinwalkers. Now, can you tell the viewers what a skinwalker is?
A skinwalker is a type of shapeshifter believed in by many Native American tribes. They have different names for it. The skinwalker is usually associated with the Navajo. They're best known for that. And according to their lore and beliefs, it's usually a medicine man that has gone on a dark path. It takes years of training and lots of kind of bad rituals in a lot of cases to be able to become one. And what they believe is that then they are able to project this image of a creature to go out from them. There are different explanations for how it's done, but usually it's a slightly more humanoid-looking creature in descriptions that I get. And again, I'm just speaking from research that I have done and from what people have told me when they see it. But the skinwalker is believed to be more of a supernatural type creature and really isn't very like what most people describe to me.
Well, do you think that some of these sightings of creatures that they're seeing, of the Wolfman, and that they could be a skinwalker?
I think that perhaps a small percentage of them could be. The ones that are reported to have this different sort of appearance and that exhibit what you might call paranormal tendencies could be. I do think that there are also a certain number that may be misidentified other animals. when the light conditions aren't good or you don't get a good glimpse at it. Most people who see it in good light and have a good look at it are pretty sure of what they saw. But occasionally, I'll get if somebody tells me that they saw something that was covered with brown fur that was walking up right through the woods, but they couldn't see its head or they couldn't see its legs. I can't really call that a sighting because it could be lots of different things. So what I believe is that most of the sightings could be possibly explained by some type of natural animal that's been able to adapt to walk or run upright, as canines can do if they're trained or motivated to do so. But then there's another smaller group that could be misidentifications. People like to also suggest that there are humans that have a condition called hypertrichosis, where your body is covered with hair, but actually it's quite a rare condition, and there aren't enough people with that condition to account for all the sightings across the United States and the world. And they don't look like wolves with long snouts or anything like that. They're flat-faced. Their faces, if anything, they would look more like a small Bigfoot than a Dogman. And again, there just aren't that many that could possibly account for these sightings. And most of them don't live in the wild. They're civilized. They become rock. There's one famous one in China who was a rock musician. There's a Mexican family of them that have become circus acrobats and even had a brief TV show of their own. So
right.
It's not like there are hordes of people with hypertrichosis hiding out in the American forest.
Now, you've also written a book on the werewolf.
Right. I have a book titled The Werewolf. It's part of a series from Chelsea House on strange and unexplained things. And that one takes a little different tack. It's not so much concerned with my research on the reports that I get from people, but it takes it back to, the ancient origins. I talk about the ancient Egyptians that had, for instance, Anubis, the jackal-headed god, which, by the way, is exactly how some people will describe the creature they see, especially these ones that seem to appear in their houses and vanish at will.
What do you mean? What do you mean creatures that appear in their houses and disappear?
Well, I get a certain very small number compared to the rest of them, but I do get them. People who will, usually it's in someone's bedroom at night, although I've had another person recount it happening in broad daylight in the morning after they had gotten up and walked around for a while, so they weren't dreaming anymore. All of a sudden, they will become aware that there are one or more of these very giant, jet black, very intelligent-looking, upright, wolf-like creatures in their house or their room. And generally, it's not where they're jumping on them or hurting them in any way. Generally, it's more of felt as a menacing presence. Often, the creatures are looking around them as if they're interested in the surroundings, and then after a little bit, they usually vanish. And it's kind of strange, how similar these are. Most people have no idea that anyone else has ever experienced anything like it.
Well, then,
pardon?
Okay, then your other book, The Real Wolfman, is that modern day Wolfman today?
The book called Real Wolfman: True Encounters in Modern America. What that book does, that includes some of the history, the legends, the lore, all that sort of thing. But it goes back to the very beginning in Bray Road when we first had those sightings. And what the publisher, Tarcher Penguin, asked me to do was to combine the best of that book, The Beast of Bray Road, the following book, which was called Hunting the American Werewolf, upon which the Monster Quest episode American Werewolf was based, and then the Michigan Dogman, werewolves and other unknown upright creatures across the U.S., and then add in all the things I've gotten since that book came out. So it's actually a compilation of the best of the first 3 books on that subject, plus the new things that have come in since then. And so, like you were saying, people are having these visions in their house of these tall wolf man,
And
occasionally, but I have to say, 95% or more are not like that. This is a very small percentage, but they do happen, and I report them.
so modern day wolfman, can you tell me about them? Do they turn into a wolf with the full moon?
No, again, Wolfman is just another one of those names. It's that can be applied. Wolfman, Manwolf, Dogman, they're all the same creature. They don't have that Hollywood baggage that I've been able to document anywhere, where there's anything to do with full moons. A lot of people don't remember the exact date, so I can't track the moon. But when they do remember if there was a full moon or a lesser moon at the time, or I've been able to track it down, I don't see any correlation between the moon. They don't have human features. They walk on their toe pads. They have long muzzles. They're not human-like at all. They're upright, unknown canines.
Now, do they attack? Has there been any word on them attacking a human?
Well, here's the weird thing, and the thing that strikes me again is that over 21 years, it's so consistent. Out of the reports that have come to me, I've only had one incident where a person was actually physically harmed, and I didn't even have a way to confirm that. It was in Canada. A man met one of these unknown upright canines on a trail up in Quebec province. He wasn't armed or anything. The creature lunged at him, and he actually believed that it would have just gone right on past him, but he was kind of panicked and sort of jumped himself, and it ended up grazing his hip and his side with one of its fangs as it went by him, and it just kept going.
Oh my God!
And he had to have stitches, and he sent me a picture of the wound, and I checked it out with a doctor, and they said yes, it's consistent with a wound that would be caused by something like a canine tooth, a jagged sort of instrument, but there's no way to prove that that's what did it. But here's the thing: many people feel menaced. They'll feel like it wants to stalk them, or it is stalking them, that it wants to attack them, that it wants to eat them. People have encountered it with their cat or their dog in its mouth and then watched
Oh
it
my God!
or it's gone after pets. Yeah, it seems very aggressive toward animals, but I've never had anyone actually been hurt by it other than that claim from the one man in Canada. What it almost always does is when it'll seem like it's chasing them or seem like it's about to grab at them, and then at the last second it runs off into whatever cover is nearby, whether it's woods or cornfield or whatever happens to be near. It's almost never caught out, just in the middle of nowhere where it can't get away.
So what do you think they eat?
Well, many people, again, and I go by witness accounts, not really just by what I think, but many people have seen it holding roadkill and, or eating roadkill. Many people have also seen it running away with what looks like parts of deer, kind of holding the deer in their forelimbs. People have also seen it scrounging by garbage cans. So I think that it's probably mostly a carnivore that hunts when it can, but is also a scavenger. If they find a fresh roadkill, they're not above, taking the raccoon and running with it. Or if they smell, maybe your leftover Kentucky Fried Chicken in the garbage can, they go for that too. So I think that they probably have a diet similar to other canines.
So all these,
they don't look like other things.
So all these sightings, I know they're all over other states as well, but are the people that usually see these sightings in heavy wooded areas, forest type areas?
Not necessarily. A lot of them happen around farmland, especially where you've got cornfields that are up providing cover. Where maybe there's a little bit of wood cover nearby, and increasingly I've been getting reports of them being seen kind of on the outskirts of cities, especially where there are on-off ramps to freeways, which is unusual. I've had some really good, definite sightings from.
Oh my gosh!
Like on the cloverleaf. And the thing is, Noreen, what I do when I get a sighting, I take my atlas and I open up Google Earth and I look around to see if there is some sort of green corridor or waterway. They're almost always seen by some type of water.
That's what I was.
Whether it's a creek or a lake or whatever. There's almost always water around. And there was one that was seen on a cloverleaf outside a really busy part of a Milwaukee kind of industrial suburb area where they're shopping and that sort of thing. And when I looked, this was December, and right across the highway from that cloverleaf was a golf course, which would have been closed, and of course no people around it in December. And there was another golf course linking to that one. That led to a waterway, which led to a big greenbelt area. It had to only go across another little river before it was back out in wooded territory.
I have a question for one of the viewers. They want to know, I really like to know if she thought it was a spirit animal or supernatural being as a guardian. And this was back when you were talking, so I'm assuming that could go with any of the creatures that were sighted.
Well, that's an alternate theory, and that is actually what any of the Native American people that I've interviewed, and I've talked to people who are tribal elders, one woman who is a tribal elder and anthropologist who is actually very interested in this. And while not every Native American in the United States believes this exactly, I'm giving you a general overview of what many of them have told me. And what it boils down to is that they believe that they'll say, yes, these were known to our ancestors or our grandfathers. They've been around longer than humans. They are part flesh and blood, part spirit animals. When they're here in our world, they need to consume flesh for energy. They need to run around, and they can leave footprints. They can leave hair. But when they need to get back into the spirit world, they know where to go or where the doors are. And somebody in the modern age might translate that as they know where the portals are to get into another dimension, which gets into new ideas in quantum mechanics and physics, which I'm not really qualified to explain here, but there's some scientific basis for this according to the cutting edge new thought in physics. So I don't shut the door myself on any one possible explanation. I have found some really unusual discoveries regarding the idea that they might be guardian spirits, which is that there's a very high incidence of sightings reports correlated with ancient Native American burial grounds, effigy mounds, and other sacred spots. And I have found this out by, again, my mapping technique. When I get a sighting, I try and find out not only what geological things are around it, but what human cultural artifacts are around, such as the burial mounds, the old churches, graveyards. These things have a very high incidence. And the interesting thing is that we find the exact same thing in Europe, where crossroads, churchyards, graveyards, ancient sacred places are also many of the same places where anomalous animals are observed.
Mm-hmm. Now somebody's mentioning silver bullets. Do you think that if they really saw one that they could kill it with a silver bullet?
Well, again, that's something that is part of Hollywood lore. It probably grew out of the idea of making, there was a creature called the Beast of Gévaudan in France several hundred years ago that was supposedly killed when they melted down the consecrated silver chalice from the local chapel and used it to make bullets, and then they finally shot these big wolf-like creatures, and then that made its way into Hollywood lore. The thing is that those people who have reported to me that they've tried to shoot it don't have any luck with any sort of bullets. And there was kind of a joke when the Beast of Bray Road was a big thing around here 20 years ago. The local sheriff actually had fake silver bullets made and handed them out to the deputies kind of tongue-in-cheek, just for sort of a joke. I actually have one of those somewhere. They gave one to me. They're not real silver bullets, though. And I generally recommend to people that they don't try to shoot things when you're not sure of what they are. The few people who have actually shot at them have been out in the wild and confronted face to face with this thing, and it's going after their dog or going after them, and felt they were in imminent danger, and they were actually, in those cases, hunters or fishermen who were prepared to deal with it. Not like I recommend that at all.
One of our viewers want to know, are any of these creatures spotted in areas where there are no wolves? Or where they haven't been seen for at least 500 years?
Where they haven't been seen for at least, well, I'll tell you, around the United States, they've been seen around most of the United States up until the past, wasn't until really around 100 years or so ago that they went really extinct. What happens, the interesting thing about upright creatures is that you get what they call, if you go into South America, you get jaguars, you get were pumas in other areas. In certain parts of Africa, you get were hyenas. It's kind of like whatever animal is at the top of the food chain becomes this upright predator that grows into legend. And what they are, again, I don't claim to know, but the distribution of the upright canines in the United States, as far as I can tell, roughly corresponds with the areas where they at least once had the largest populations. And the wolf population has come back very strong, but there are more of them east of the Mississippi, and then in the mountainous states, kind of on the west coast, and then down into the southern states and Texas, where you once had what they called brush wolves or Mexican wolves. So they do roughly correspond to what the habitats that used to support the wolf.
Okay. Hey viewers, the chat is going so fast I can't read it. So if you guys would just kind of like lay off the chat, and anybody that has a question, please put it in caps for me now, and just questions right now, okay? So I can read them to Linda, because it's going fast. You have no idea how fast it's going. I can't read. I can't keep up with it. So if you have questions, start typing them one by one and in caps so I can read it to Linda, okay? I appreciate that. Thanks. Because I don't have Tim with me tonight. I'm on my own. Help me. Okay, so with that, Linda, why don't we go over to Wendigo now? Wendigos, that's my favorite. I saw a movie, years ago on Wendigo. It was a Wendigo monster. I love that movie. I've never seen it since. So would you talk about Wendigo?
Yeah, that was kind of a cool movie, if I remember. The thing about Wendigo is that, now, it's a very ancient Native American legend, and the thing is that it varies from tribe to tribe. You'll find different descriptions of it. I try to go mostly by some of the oldest references to it that were made by fur trappers that interviewed the Native Americans that they were living with at the time back in the 1700s. And in most cases, the Wendigo was related to starvation cannibalism. And as it originated, when a human being would turn to cannibalism either due to starvation or perhaps to mental illness, he would be considered to have been taken over by this ancient spirit called the Wendigo. And then he would usually have to be killed by the other members of his tribe. But he didn't turn into a different, like an animal or anything like that. He just became shunned by his tribe. This eventually evolved into taking different figures. The northern Algonquians believe the Wendigo is a huge, giant figure made of ice. Sometimes the original human is encased in the heart area of the ice. And when I say giant, I'm talking like 26 feet tall. They're noted to uproot trees. And they, relentlessly search out humans to eat.
So Linda, is this
another tradition? I'll just say this real quickly.
Okay.
In the eastern tribes, there's another tradition where it looks a little bit more like a giant werewolf, and some people compare it to Bigfoot.
Oh.
It depends on what people you're talking to, what Native people, what part of the country.
Well, is Wendigo a Native American folklore, or have there been sightings?
It's an ancient tradition. They believe it's an actual spirit that comes to tempt people when there's starvation.
Oh. So then it couldn't. So then it wouldn't be a skinwalker. Then it would be.
Right. It's a different thing.
Okay.
It's a very different. A skinwalker is an intentionally created or conjured creature, by a medicine man who has studied and done a lot to create it. The Wendigo is an independently existing spirit that takes different forms and that can. It has a lot. Usually, it's the northern tribes, where there's snow, there's little to eat, and starvation was a very strong and present force for hunter-gatherer people for many years, and and cannibalism was generally strictly taboo. So if someone turned to this, they had all of this tradition to deal with it.
Okay, so there is a question, but you've already answered that. Was Wendigo some kind of skinwalker? Let's see. All right. There was a case, I just skimmed by it, in Canada, and the man was put to death eventually. He ate his whole family.
Yeah, that was, I think I've read that same one. Yeah, it's a really scary thing. You could think perhaps, probably what they would have said was that this man had been possessed by the Wendigo spirit. And you think of some modern cases like, Ed Gein or Jeffrey Dahmer,
Yeah.
where they were sort of doing the same thing. These people were considered to have mental illness. And, it just is a cultural thing of how you're going to describe why they're that way.
Okay. God, again, you guys, I can't read your questions. The chat's going like 100 zillion miles an hour. It's going so fast.
I see somebody's asking about the Paranormal Witness show where the family was stalked by werewolf-type creatures. That show was based on an incident in my book, Real Wolfmen, True Encounters in Modern America. This was an incident where I was the first investigator, and it's a very credible story. A middle-aged woman and her husband in Maine were actually stalked in their own yard by 5 of these creatures, and they called 911. 911 told them to call the game warden. Nobody would come out to help them. They found footprints the next day that were kind of in matted grass, so they weren't good enough to really take a cast of or anything like that. But I interviewed both of them at great length. They agreed to be on that Paranormal Witness TV show. And as far as I know, there's absolutely no reason not to believe that their story is true.
Okay, what about the Donner Pass? That whole incident there where they ended up eating one another because of starvation and they were stuck up.
Those were settlers. Those were, European settlers with European ancestry that were trying to cross the mountains and left a little late and got caught in the snow. And,
right.
And I don't think that those had any connection with any sort of supernatural entities or werewolves.
So they couldn't have. So because the Wendigo is supposed to be connected to cannibalism and cold and snow and all that, couldn't that have happened to them?
Well, I have no idea. I think that sometimes humans in extreme conditions like that will turn to cannibalism just as sort of a rational way to keep themselves alive to get out of it. That's happened to people who were in airplane crashes.
Right.
There's a famous case like that maybe, 20 years ago where, they decided to consume one of the people who died in the crash in order to stay alive. So sometimes you just have that, it's something that occurs.
Mm-hmm. You want to go now? Okay, let's talk about Man-Bat, because I know you actually did an investigation on Man-Bat, didn't you, Linda? Your own investigation?
Right, yes.
Oh,
exactly.
Tell the viewers.
And, the Man-Bat is very similar, I think, to what some people call the Bat Squatch, or some people call them gargoyles, which is probably appropriate. Generally, they're sort of a furry-looking creature with bat-like wings.
Linda, are they connected at all to Mothman?
In some ways, some of the Mothman description was a little different, with big red eyes, no neck. Some people described it as having feathery wings. The man bat is another creature. I think it's got bat-like wings and more of a furry humanoid in the center. And the one I investigated was a 50-year-old man and his 25-year-old son in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is on the Mississippi River on the west border of the state. We're driving home one evening, totally sober, both of them, about 9 p.m., and this thing with a furry humanoid body with bat-like wings, wider than their truck. They estimated it had at least a 10-foot wingspan, came flying straight at them. They thought it was going to hit the windshield. It swerved upward at the last second and went screaming off into the nearby trees. And when it emitted this shriek, both people became immediately sick to their stomachs. The older man was sick for a couple of weeks. And they were sort of haunted by it, and I don't mean haunted in the way, you talk about a ghost hunting, but in the sense that it seemed to sort of follow them home, and they'd hear thumps and bumps on the outside of their house. Their dogs were terrified. It was quite a traumatic experience for them. And I was there within, a couple of weeks. I was able to get there, and the interesting thing was that I visited the road with them where this happened, and they showed me, I said, well, where did it fly off to? And they pointed over toward the trees, and we walked up there, and we found a half-mutilated deer with no blood around it that had been evidently just sort of dropped in some grass. There were no drag marks or anything like that. I couldn't prove that it was a human. I had a person with me who was a deer hunter, and they said it was not, butchered in the way that a human would do so. I took pictures of the deer as best as I could, but wasn't able to prove anything. But it's so similar to so many other sightings that you have, especially out in the American Northwest, the state of Washington. That's where the term bat squatch originated. And nobody knows exactly what they are or, where they come from, but there's this tradition of these weird flying things that goes back to not just the ancient Egyptians with the Sphinx, but the Sphinx goes back to the Sumerians before the Egyptians, and probably farther back in history than we even know. It's kind of a transitional creature with the animal-like body, the wings, and some human aspect to the face. And when you look at the faces people draw of these things, they have more of a human-like aspect to them than do, say, the upright wolf-like things. They remind me more of these very ancient gargoyles or sphinx type creatures. And you're showing right there. I can see my illustration that I did for a book by Ken Gerhardt. I'm going to be putting it in my new book also that's going to be coming out early in 2014. That's a very typical drawing or description of a bat squatch.
And what's their description?
Usually they're furry. They often have very mesmerizing either yellow or red eyes, and wings that are described as bat-like, and usually a 10 to 14 foot wingspan. They're quite large, and they would have to be in order to support that large of a creature. They usually report seeing fangs and claws, and they're quite scary looking.
Yeah, I just find that I just am really confused about this whole thing. All these creatures keep cropping up, and there are more and more and more of them. Lizard man and all these creatures, but why so many different sightings? Are people on hallucinations or drugs or something?
Well, hallucinations and drugs are always suggested, but most of the people, I've only had, this is a question I ask people. I say, were you drinking or were you on drugs? And most people who see these things are either they're camping with their families, they're driving home from work, a late shift at night, they're out on a nature hike, they're perfectly sober, I don't think that drugs or alcohol can explain it. And if it was hallucination, so many times there are two or more people that see the same thing at the same time. And how would they be seeing the exact same creature doing the exact same thing?
Well, with all these creatures that are cropping up, I mean, they're pretty scary looking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why they don't feel that a human being would be food to them.
I can't. You mean you're asking why don't they
Yeah, why aren't they attacking humans?
attacking and eating? Yeah, exactly. Well, that's just the question. It's not anything I've ever found an answer to. It does weigh, in my opinion, it does make them weigh a little heavier toward the paranormal side in that aspect, because usually if, say, you run into a bear and it looks at you like you think it's mad, or it's angry at you, or it's trying to get you out of its territory, a bear will just charge you, and if it wants to eat you, it'll eat you. And these things don't act that way. They sort of act like they're bluffing to get you out of their territory, but then they don't attack. So I can't explain that. I have no idea.
A viewer wants to know, where are they mostly seen?
Where are what?
Man-bat. Where are man-bat mostly seen? Where are their sightings?
There's a lot of them in Washington State. There are a lot of them around Texas and Oklahoma, that area. And then you get them along the Mississippi River is another thing that I've noticed. Seems to be sort of a haunt for strange flying things up and down that. And then going eastward through Pennsylvania, Ohio has quite a few sightings. And then if you want to count the Mothman as something like that, you go all the way over to, the Ohio border, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Viewers, if you have any questions, we're going to move on to one more last subject. So please put them, just questions. Lay off the chat and just give me your questions, okay? And put them in caps so I can give them to Linda. Actually, Linda's looking at the chat as well. So you want to put your questions in caps for Linda. Please do that now. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks.
One person did ask, how do we know they aren't attacking homeless or drifters? And that's a good question. We don't. We don't know. And, I've always sort of half-jokingly said that as far as I know, no one's ever been attacked, but then, there might be some that didn't live to tell the tale. And I have no way of knowing that one way or the other.
Okay. The viewer that just typed that question, Linda just answered that. Man-bat locations, she just answered that. I don't know if this was on delay or not.
Somebody wrote, what's in Canada and what do I do? I don't. One thing people have to remember is that really still there are a lot of sightings, but when you consider the millions and millions of people in the country, they're still really quite rare. I have been getting a lot of sightings in British Columbia for some reason. And that's Bigfoot, the Dogman, mostly, and then one or two flying creatures.
Okay, so let's move on then to our last subject. And that's on your book, God Johnson. And you were going to talk about ancient flying creatures. Oh, let me show them your book. Here's your book. I have a picture of your book, Linda. Now you talk about some ancient creatures as well in this book.
Right, and I want to make it plain. This is a fantasy novel. It's not. My other books are all nonfiction. This one is fiction. I want to make that clear to people. It's available. It's co-self-published with my agent as an ebook, like you can get it as a Kindle book or a Nook book or through other e-readers, just so you know. But one reason that I wanted to write a novel was because I've become very interested in the legacy of these ancient animals called sphinxes in ancient times. Now they were called gargoyles in medieval times. They were known as the evil god Pazuzu way back by the Sumerians. And now we're seeing them again, and I just wanted to kind of have some imaginative, fun with one, and imagine what one could do. So in this book, it's sort of the pet of the gods, and that's gods with small g. It's kind of like the ancient multiple, like think of the Egyptian gods or the Roman gods, that sort of thing. So
well, one of the pictures. Okay, one of the pictures you sent me was a jackal standing over a sarcophagus. Is that what they call it? Sarcophagus? I can't pronounce it.
That you're referring to. That was the one of Anubis. Remember, we talked about Anubis a little while ago as something that people reference when they're trying to describe the more supernatural type of upright canine. And Anubis was the jackal-headed god of the dead. The Egyptians believed that he guided people to the underworld, which I think is also sort of an interesting connection.
I also found another picture in Egyptian times. They call it an Egyptian creature. It's like it has wings. Can you see that picture I'm showing?
No, I think I'm delayed a little bit. So I haven't seen it yet.
So any questions, please type your questions in. There is a question from one of the viewers. Do you see that picture yet?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm still seeing my book cover from Dogman.
Okay. So in your book, you talk about, though, these creatures from Egyptian time? And
one of the main characters is somebody who's sort of a reincarnation of the ancient Egyptian scarab. The Egyptians believed that the dung beetle was a representative of the sun god because it rolls along a little ball of dung, that'll take from cattle droppings or whatever. And when you see that Egyptian symbol of the kind of the horns with the little sun in the middle, that's actually what it's representing. So I just thought people might get a kick out of the idea that I used a lot of this research in that fantasy novel, to kind of bring it in there.
Let's see. There is a question. They want to know, have you researched or interviewed people concerning the Oklahomian monster in Lake Okanagan?
I actually have. I've written a book called Lake and Sea Monsters, and there's a chapter about lake monsters in my other books. I've kind of concentrated most recently on Flathead Lake in Utah. I think that's one of the most likely places for there actually to be a lake monster. But there are so many. There are just unbelievable numbers of lakes that are said to have had lake monsters. Wisconsin has tons of them, by the way. They're pretty similar in most cases. That people believe that they look like very large, ancient, prehistoric creatures such as plesiosaurs or mosasaurs, an ancient type of whale. And yet, it's really hard to explain where they went or how some of these lakes could support a population of them. I've often thought perhaps there are lots of underground channels that they have that they can get to bigger water, or maybe places where they can live that we don't know about. It's hard to explain, but all I can say is that there are tons of those lake monsters, and there has to be some basis when you get that many legends everywhere around, not just, the United States and Canada, but you think of Loch Ness and so many of the fjords in Sweden and different places where these creatures were supposed to exist. There has to be something to it.
Mm-hmm. One of the viewers already asked a question that we answered, and no, she has not, with her own eyes, had any sightings, right, Linda?
Just a possible partial sighting, but I couldn't confirm what the creature was. I saw the upright gray-furred spine of something as it crossed the road, and I couldn't see the rest of the creature.
Linda, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm hoping you'll come back because you have so much knowledge and so many more monsters we could talk about, and we love American monsters. We love that. And I want to thank you so much for joining us. It was really a pleasure to have you on the show.
You're welcome, and I want to thank all the people in the chat room for asking questions and being there too, and just thank you for having me.
Thank you, Linda. Good night. Have a great evening and a great weekend. Thank you.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so don't forget, this is our Halloween season, our favorite time of the year. Unfortunately, Tim couldn't be with me, but you all know that Tim is at a secret haunted location, and I'm going to be calling him right now. So hold on. I'm going to call Tim. Let me get my phone. Hold on for a second. Hey, what are you doing?
Hey.
Do you need me to come over and protect you?
I need you to come clean the house.
Oh. Everybody, I have Tim Wood on the phone. Hey, Tim.
Hey,
how's it going over there?
And Jonathan's here with me.
Oh, hey, Jonathan. How are you? Hi.
Great.
Are you scared?
No, not yet.
Well, Tim, you're live with all the viewers. Do you want to say hi to them?
Hi, guys.
So, what are you doing?
Right now, we're just chilling on one of the couches and listening to your show.
And
great to hear Linda on talk about American monsters. We learned a lot.
Yeah.
So, very fascinating.
Yeah. Hey, so tell the viewers about this house that you're at.
We're at almost a 200-year-old house. It was built right before the Civil War. Has a real kind of tragic history with it. There's been a bunch of people who've committed suicide in the house. There's been a lot of deaths. And there's been a lot of people who have only lived in the house for a month because either they kill themselves or they just leave because strange things start happening, like illnesses start happening to the people that live in the house.
God. Where was most of the activity in that house?
Wait, what is that? Something's beeping in the house right now. I'm not sure if you hear that.
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, we have no idea. In your bag? Yeah, that's weird. Something's beeping in my bag. I don't know what it is. It sounds like a time bomb. But yeah, we've been hearing, the Warren, Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the house. That's weird. My ghost box just went on.
Your ghost box went off?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's strange. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, whatchamacallit?
Oh my.
Yeah, Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the house in the 70s, and they had asked after the guy had moved out. They were trying to get a couple, an exorcism performed on the house, but they weren't able to do so.
Oh my God. What's the feeling in the house, Tim? How do you feel?
Pretty creepy. We were, as the show was going on, and as I was setting up to do your show, over the internet, we were hearing like a lot of growls and bangs in the wall. And what's interesting is that about 20 years ago, one of the residents, the renters, was hearing bangs in the wall. And finally he got sick of it, and he tore open one of the walls and found a tin box with chicken bones and human molars inside of it.
Oh, so what is that a sign of, Tim?
Voodoo.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So how long ago do you think the voodoo was done since the walls were all covered?
I don't know, but there were reports of there's actually a servant's quarters, a servant's staircase in the house.
No way. Really?
Yep.
Oh my God.
So, and there were reports of when the house was built in the 1800s that someone kept crocodiles and chickens here.
That's voodoo.
Yep.
Oh my God. Well, you got your work cut out for you. When are you going to start live streaming your show?
We're going to start live streaming on Monday, and pretty much we're going to be streaming the whole show on Justin TV. So I know a lot of people like to chat better on Justin TV, so we're going to be using Justin TV for the whole show, and every day and every night we're going to be streaming live, so people will not only be able to see us investigate, but they'll also be able to watch John walk around the house in his boxers in the morning.
For those who are just joining us and who don't know, this is Tim Wood I have on the phone. He is the owner and creator of LiveSci-Fi.tv, and he's the director and co-host with me on my show, Do You Believe? So that's who we're talking to. Now, Tim does, about once a month, he does go to locations, and he airs his live paranormal investigations, one of the best on the web. So you're in for a real treat if you don't know who Tim is.
And John.
And Jonathan. And who are your other investigators with you?
Scott will be joining us on. He's come flying in. He'll be here on Sunday. And David Spinks will also be coming out.
Wow.
He'll be helping us with our tech and stuff. So we have a good team.
Yeah. How's the weather back there?
It's rainy.
Really?
It doesn't stop raining. Yeah.
Are you getting any thunder and lightning and activity?
No.
No.
Thank God, because that turns me on.
Well, I missed you on the show tonight. I missed not having you.
Yeah, I missed being on the show.
So when will you be back in town to do the next show with me?
I'll be out here, past Halloween. So we will be streaming for about a month out here.
Oh.
So everything that happens in the house, we're going to be documenting it live, and whether it's good or bad,
Wow.
We'll
So
streaming it.
You'll put the link up where they can go for the show?
Mm-hmm.
And where will they find the link?
They'll find, actually, our evidence clips will be uploaded daily on our YouTube account. And if they want to go watch the show, they can just go to LiveSci-Fi.tv. This weekend I'll be putting up the show page, and it'll be on the front page.
Okay. So those who... Well, now, what about those that normally just go to YouTube to watch the show? How would they find you?
We'll be posting up the evidence clips for right now only on YouTube because the chat room doesn't work out too well for the live show. So we're going to be streaming it only on LiveSci-Fi.tv and Justin TV. Okay.
So they'll be able to, if they go to your YouTube channel, and they'll be able to find you on Justin. If the people...
They're going to have to go to Justin TV to watch the show, or LiveSci-Fi.tv.
Okay. Oh, it'll be on Live Sci-Fi?
Yep.
Oh, good. Yeah, so you can go to LiveSci-Fi.tv to his webpage, and it'll be there live.
Yeah, and once again, I want to thank everybody who watched the show tonight and gave us a like on the video. Noreen works really hard, and she really appreciates all the support, and me as well. So, thank you everybody for making this show a real success tonight.
Ditto. Same here.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to say to the viewers, Tim?
Are there any questions in chat room before I go? Does anybody have any questions? I'll give some shout-outs really quickly to the people I see in the YouTube chat. What's up, Jay? What's up, Christina? Katie? Ginger? Left Eye of Ra. Paradigm. Hello, Christine. Yeah, Jay. So, yeah, anyways, but I just want to say hello, and to our moderators who are going to be watching and helping us out with the show next week. Thank you again.
Yeah, okay. Well, like I said, I miss you. I'll be watching you with your live shows. I can't wait. Please be safe. Jonathan, you too. You guys, please be safe.
Yeah, Jonathan we brought the Annabelle doll. He's going to snuggle up with it tonight.
Did you bring Monkey too? What's Monkey's name?
No, I brought the Ouija board.
Oh, okay. Oh, that ought to be interesting. Good place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Tim, thanks so much for letting me talk to you, and the viewers love it. And I miss you, and you guys be safe. I'll talk to you when you get back.
I wear size 12 shoes. We had one question that came in.
What?
So, yeah, I wear size 12 shoes.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
That was a question in the chat room.
Well, your foot doesn't look that big. But Tim's a big guy.
So, anyways, all right. Yeah, we'll be doing the Connect here, too. So.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we will be. Yeah.
All right.
So we'll be doing the Connect, and we'll also be doing a tutorial on how to set it up.
All right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, everybody, Tim will be back with me in November to do the live shows with me. And let's wish Tim and Jonathan and the rest of the team best wishes and safe hunting.
Cool. All right, you guys.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Jonathan.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, gosh. Okay, well, that concludes the show for tonight. And again, like Tim said, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us and for joining me every week when we have these live shows. I really appreciate it. We love you guys. Without you, I wouldn't be doing this show. So I want to thank you. And if some of you don't return, happy Halloween. This is a festive month for us. It's the Halloween season, and we love it. It's our favorite month. So everybody, I want to say good night to you, and thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful night and have a wonderful weekend. Good night, everybody. Thank you.